Everyone is very welcome to this interview. I'm honoured and privileged to get the opportunity to interview such a talented man. Welcome, PJ, Cal. You were involved in everything that went on in the community, in the local community in particular, namely Ballypicus GA, Ballypicus Water Scheme, Spink GA, drama and dancing, and of late playing cards. And there's more to add to that later on as the interview goes on. So viewers, you can see we have a lot to discuss tonight. PJ, will ask you to start by telling me where you were born and your movements up to the teenage years.
Well, Paddy, thanks very much for inviting me to do this interview. And I will start. I was born in 1939 in Tullow, Ballyrone. My parents were Joe Cal and Margaret Whelan. But I had two sets of parents. Tom Cal and Bridie Cal just lived across the road. And both of them, there was a double wedding in Ballyrone in 1938. And that's where all the Cal cousins and brothers and sisters, there was four brothers in Tom and Bridie's. That was my uncle and aunt, and there was five of us, two brothers and three sisters.
Right.
But I was born anyway the following year in 1939, but I only stayed in Tullow for a year because my father bought a little farm up in Cribben.
Just asking now, PJ, you talking about where you were born is where Paddy lived, where you...
No, I was born where Joe and Sheila is now living.
All right, now...
As Joe puts it, in Tullow House.
Very good. And you were saying, there was a house opposite that, was there?
Well, Uncle Tom, just a bit up the road, like.
Oh, yeah, up the road.
His farm came down as far as to Tiger Delaney's cottage there.
Oh, yeah.
So that was we never, very seldom went down and up the car road, as we used to call it.
Yeah.
We'd head straight up across there from the Tigers, like.
Oh, yeah.
Very often, anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry now for intervening there. You can go ahead. Right. That's where you were born and so
that's
on,
right.
And your brothers and sisters.
So Daddy bought a little farm then up in Cribben where Charlotte Carter is now living.
Oh, yeah.
Billy Carter was her husband, and his father and Billy and George moved into Cribben when we sold it in 1945. But Daddy bought it off of a people called Montgomery's. She was the local midwife in Ballyrone and around the Ballyrone area at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And she delivered on our family as well. But anyway, Daddy and Mammy moved up to Cribben to start their life there. And I was born there, I was a year old at the time, about 1940.
Right. How long did you live there for, PJ?
We lived there for 6 years.
And
I regard them 6 years as the best years of my life.
Yeah.
I was a bit of a traveller then.
Oh, yeah, you had to move around a bit, yeah.
Oh, I did.
Mammy
used to often send me on messages up as far as Tom and Sheila MacDonald's and Tenora Cashin.
Oh, yeah.
And people who lived all along that road, and I was as well known as the Tinker's Ass.
Oh, yeah, well, I would have known Nora Cashin.
Yeah.
She's related to me, yeah, a very nice woman, decent woman, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, you had plenty of characters there around there. There was Paddy Mean, he played in the Ballyrone Brass Band.
That's right.
There was Joe Cork.
Tess was the biggest character of them all.
All right, oh yeah, Tess. Tess Mean, yeah, well, I heard a little bit about Tess, all right, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, you had Joe Cork, and they're a singing man like yourself.
That's right.
And you had Eamon Hall probably wasn't up there at that time now.
Oh no, my first memory of Eamon Hall, this is very funny. I was 4 years of age at the time. Eamon is exactly 4 years younger than me. He would have been born in 1943, and you can check that out with Eamon, I'd say I'm right.
Oh, yeah.
And I started to school that year, and I'd get out at 2 o'clock, you see, and I'd make my way home up to Cribben. There was no buses or anything then.
Oh, yeah.
So coming up, I'd cross across the street there at the Brothers' School over to Mercer's side, where Scully's shop now is, and where Scully's house still is now.
Nolan's Bakery was on the same time. Was a bakery in your time? Was it there? Up Nolan's?
Oh yeah, but to get to...
Yeah.
I was coming home this particular evening anyway. It was probably in the summer or harvest time in 1943. I don't know what month Eamon was born, but he was a baby in his mother's arms.
Yeah.
And the mother and Eamon was at the front door, and the mother had Eamon in his arms,
Yeah.
And this woman was there admiring this beautiful baby, and sure, the mother was as proud as any, showing off. And the next thing, Eamon let go in his nappy. And this yellow stuff flew all over the place.
Yeah.
And I ran out of there as fast as I could. Mr. Mulhall ran in through the door, and the woman was there standing on the footpath. And I thought that was a very
Funny story, yeah.
Yeah.
Later, of course, Eamon later played for Ballypickles, and yeah,
That's right.
with you, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was your years in Cribben. Now, sorry about yeah.
Well, I'd like to. I said I was a bit of a traveller. I managed to get lost twice when I was in Cribben.
Oh, very good, yeah.
I wandered off, I'd say I was about 3 years of age, down towards the village. Like, I probably wanted to see what was down there.
Yeah.
And there was a gate open. I think it must have been down in front of Tone Carroll's there somewhere, where Tone Carroll had the forge, and I knew him very well.
Yeah.
And even at that age, like,
Yeah.
should now wander into this field of wheat, like picking wheat and picking flowers or whatever it was, and sure, I was gone for an hour anyway before my mother missed me. I wasn't in the yard where I was supposed to be.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it was that evening they found me in the middle of a field of corn down in Ballarone.
You have worrying times, your mother, anyway. Yeah.
Another evening then, Christy Fitz and Mikey and May and Patty decided that they were going to go down to Ballyroon Bog for a wander.
Oh, yeah.
Might have been after the tea, like maybe on a September evening, in about 6 o'clock, like.
Yeah.
That would be 6 o'clock all time. Would be only probably another hour and a half of light left. And
Yes.
sure, I don't think my mother or my father knew I was gone at all.
Right.
So we got lost in the bog. We weren't lost at all. They knew where they were, like.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, when my mother and father started looking for me, like, there was nowhere to be found, and all the neighbours were out. I wasn't got till about 10 o'clock that night.
Oh, right, down the bog, yeah.
Down Ballyroon Bog.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, very good, yeah.
Yeah, and I also remember one time, it was the time Nora Cashin got married to Mark Delaney.
Yeah.
And my mother had a wedding present for Nora Cashin, which they were great friends, like they were the same age and probably went to school together in Ballyroan.
Yeah.
So this Sunday afternoon she decided she was going to take up this wedding present up to Nora Cashin. I can still remember it to this day, like, she had a big, high, probably a 2-foot high picture of the Sacred Heart. Big red cloak on him, like, and the cream coloured front. I can still see it, like.
Yeah.
And would you believe it, when I was at Nora Cashin's wake a few years ago, I asked Mick Delaney about this, like. He says, would you like to see that statue again? I said, I'd love to see it. He took me into a room beside the wake room, and there was the statue of the Sacred Heart that Mammy gave to Nora Cashin in 1943.
Amazing.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
That would be my memories now of growing up in Spink.
Cribben.
Growing up in Cribben.
Cribben, yeah, absolutely.
The days were next to Eddie Day and Paddy Day, and sure I know everyone knew Paddy Day. Like,
Oh, but absolutely, yeah, character in Ballarone as
I
well.
knew Paddy Day from the time I was that age,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
knew his father, the Darky Day. Well, I didn't know him, but my mother used to say he was a bit of a hard drinker, like, and he'd be drinking in Ballyroan, like, and he'd always come into our house for a cup of tea and try to sober up before he'd go home.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I was about maybe a year old or 2 or 3, and he'd come over and start putting his arms around me, and sure, I used to start roaring, bawling, like.
So history repeated itself, because Paddy D of Cashel used to always call it to Nora Cashin.
I'm
when
sure.
you'd be better on to sober up and get a few drinks too, and tell her the worries of the world, yeah. And sure, Eddie D, Ned O'D or Neddy O'D, or what, Eddie O'D, that was your neighbour in Cribben. He was actually married to a McGrath.
That's right.
Which had connections to Ned Day and
That's right.
the late Ned Day,
That's
which was
right.
Fiddler Picker. So
That's
the
right.
history revolves around.
I'd have to acknowledge Mrs. Day, like, I mean, she was like a granny to me, like, because I used to be in her house getting sweets and all that, and also Mrs. Fitz. I was always in Fitz's because Mikey Fitz and Patty were kind of just around my age as well, like, you know.
Yeah.
Christy was a bit bigger, like, and a bit bouler, like, you know.
Yeah. Christy ended up the local builder, of course, in Ballyroan.
Right,
People would remember him. Yeah.
Maybe that's enough now about
Cribben, like,
Cribben,
yeah. So then just move on then, PJ, to your teenage years. We'll say, you know, when you started to hurl and things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so, no, just sorry, you moved out of Cribben in 19.
We moved out of Cribben in 1945 when we came to Tullow, like, and that's when we really got to be friendly with, got to know me cousins, Paddy and Tom and Joe and Sean, like. But they used to visit maybe once a month up to Cribben, like.
Oh, yeah.
And I always remember one Sunday they were up anyway, and We were up in Days, playing around Days Farm. Yeah, we were everywhere because children used to go everywhere at that stage. Like,
Absolutely.
and so the next thing, Paddy, who would be probably just less than a year younger than me,
Yeah.
spotted this old pram frame in the yard like that Days used to have for carrying the milk churns up to the road, like
Oh, God, yeah.
for collection for Raheen Creamery.
Yeah, yeah.
And sure, the next thing we were flying up and down the road on this pram frame, two of us sitting in the pram and two more of us pushing it like.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, Paddy thought this was a great joke anyway, and he brought it down to Cribben. And sure, he wanted to put it in the pony and strap going home like that.
To bring it home, you could
So
see
there
useful.
Oh yeah, for flying down, as well as that, flying down Poor's Hill, like it would be a great joke.
Oh, God, yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, well, there was an awful row anyway, and Bridie, Paddy's mother, like, had to take the pram off him and bring him back up to Mrs. Day, like.
Oh, yeah. It had the idea. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that was that.
That was that. So